This one's a little interesting. So this is from CBSSports.com. The 15 richest owners in the NFL. Now, top of that is David Tepper, $16.7 billion with a B. That is substantially higher than Stan Kroenke, Jerry Jones at $10 billion. Jimmy Haslam comes in there at $3.8 billion with a B, same as Gail Benson, owner of the Saints. So Jimmy Haslam has plenty of money to spend. We can spend some of his money on free agents or eating cap numbers. He's got a lot to do, and has shown that he's willing to spend the money as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, right? When you look at that list, it can be fooling sometimes, right? Because some of these guys can have $5.8 billion, but they don't have it in liquid assets, right? They have it in valuation, in number of things that they own. Yeah, they do have that much money in value, but that doesn't mean that they can access that money right away, right? The one thing that separates Jimmy Haslam from a lot of different owners, and why you have heard owners kicking and screaming about that guaranteed contract and about guaranteed contracts in general, is because in order to give a high guarantee, you got to do that in cash. You can't pay that in credit, right? Like, you got to pay that upfront in cash, put it in escrow the second that contract's signed, because it's guaranteed money. You can't just take that on a handshake deal, right? That's guaranteed money. It goes into escrow. And some teams just don't have that, right? The reason why Mike Brown was complaining when the Haslams did that is because if Joe Burrow wants that kind of money, I don't know if Mike Brown has $230 million of expendable money to just put in escrow for a player. Like, that's not a luxury that he has. A lot of people in the NFL, you'd be surprised, or owners in the NFL, don't have that kind of flexibility with their money, and it becomes an issue. This has popped up with the Raiders and Mark Davis. He does not have the level of liquid money. It's going to pop up with the Bengals because all of their money is wrapped up in owning the Bengals, right? Like, they don't really own anything else outside of that. And yeah, they're worth $3.8 billion because the Bengals are worth $3.8 billion, but that don't mean they have access to that money. So that's another thing to watch. Some of these guys are worth a lot of money, but they might not have access to that money, or they might not be willing to access that money, right? Because this might be, instead of it being the whole business venture, like for the Haslam family, owning the Browns is everything that they want to do. It's their main goal. It's their main thing that they do now, because they don't even run pilot anymore. So all that money that he has, $3.8 billion, that goes towards the Browns, right? Like, he focuses that on the Browns. But if you have somebody like a David Tepper, who maybe he cares about football, but he has his hands in other entities, right? Like the Khan family. They own a wrestling company. They own a Premier League soccer team, and they own the Jaguars. So that money's spread out between like 5 different interests, and then they have their own business interests on top of that. So, it could get complicated when you look at money, but the thing with Haslam is that Haslam really just owns the Browns. So he has an advantage in that, where all his expendable money really just goes towards the football team. And that is a luxury that a lot of other owners really don't have. And that's why they're mad right now. Like that, keep in mind that is why they're mad, because they now have to reach into their bag and get that cash when they did not have to before, right? You can sign somebody to a $400 million contract with $40 million guaranteed. You only got to get the $40 million out, right? It ain't that big of a deal. But when you got to put that in cash day one in escrow, that starts to change people's minds.
Yep. And that is a very valid point. If you have a guaranteed contract, that money has to be in